Hey guys! Today, we're going to talk about one of the most historical pieces of Disneyland. And to do so, Fastpass Facts and Van Eaton Galleries will take you back to September 1953, to the weekend that's known as the Lost Weekend. Don't know what the Lost Weekend is? Stick with us, and we'll tell you all about it. So, September 1953. Walt Disney wants to build Disneyland, but he can't afford it, and he realizes he needs something visual to convince investors of the magic that Disneyland will bring to its guests from all around the world. And so, while Roy Disney was setting up meetings in New York with potential investors, Walt was going crazy thinking about what they should do to make it happen. On Saturday, September 26, 1953, Walt called Herb Ryman, one of the best artists that Walt could think of, and asked him to meet him at the Disney Studios. When Herb got there, Walt asked him to help him draw the plans that were going to make this dream happen. Walt needed Herb to draw a large map of Disneyland so that Roy could take it to New York the following week. But Herb got a little nervous. He felt pressure because he thought there was not enough time, and he was really worried that he wouldn't do as amazing a job as Walt needed by rushing the project. But Walt, being as great as he was, convinced Herb to work on the map by telling him they're going to work together on the project day and night at the studio, and that he's going to do an excellent job. And so, over those 2 days, Walt and Herb worked on the map. Walt described every aspect of the park very specifically to Herb, and Herb used a pencil and a large sheet of vellum paper to draw it exactly as Walt imagined. When they were done drawing the map on the vellum sheet, they transferred it to a more durable sheet, where it was hand-colored and adhered to a presentation board so that Roy could take it to New York. And we have this map to thank for the successful presentation that led to the funding to build Disneyland. After the presentation, Roy came back with the map, and over the next year, this same map was used by Walt in many development meetings to help design the park. Later, in 1954, it was inked again by hand, but this time adding darker and bolder lines with more color and lots of new details like an additional train car, a new monument on Main Street, an enhanced Disneyland scroll along the bottom, and much more. After the new enhancements, the map was used in September of 1954 as the first image of Disneyland revealed to the general public. This map was used to promote Disneyland for a long time until March of 1955. Just 4 months before the park's opening, Disney was done using the map because they had newer maps that resembled more closely how the park looked on opening day. And so, Grenade Curran, Walt's employee and friend, came up to him and asked, "What are you going to do with the map? Can I have it?" And Walt turned around, looked at him and said, "You can have it." And he kept it for over 60 years out of the view of the public. But now, the map is returning to light in the Van Eaton Gallery's upcoming exhibition and auction, Walt Disney's Disneyland. Disneyland has been through a lot of changes since it first opened in 1955. One of these changes was the way the admission to the park and attractions used to be. Want to know how? Well, Fastpass Facts will tell you all about it. Let's go back to 1955. You get to the park and buy your admission ticket. Only this time, you're not only going to get that one ticket, but you have to buy a ticket book. This ticket book contains 5 tickets, your admission ticket, which will be ripped off at the entrance, and an A, a B, a C, and a D ticket. These tickets were used to get into different attractions. A tickets were used to get into the more common attractions, while D tickets were for the most popular attractions. These tickets could also be bought inside the park, in case you ran out of tickets. Actually, there are many remaining ticket booths throughout the park. In 1959, Disneyland opened new and cooler attractions, and with this, they introduced the most popular ticket of all, the king of all tickets, the E-ticket. This ticket included the coolest attractions around the park, and obviously, it was the most expensive one. These were some of the attractions that the tickets included. A-ticket, Fire Engine, King Arthur Carousel, Sleeping Beauty's Castle. B-ticket, Main Street Cinema, Alice in Wonderland, Casey Jr., Swift Family Treehouse. C-ticket, Shooting Gallery, Dawtopia, TWA Rockets to the Moon, Mad Tea Party. D-ticket, PeopleMover, Mark Twain Riverboat, Davy Crockett's Canoes, and last, but definitely not least, the e-ticket, Matterhorn, Small World, Jungle Cruise, Tiki Room, Haunted Mansion, Pirates of the Caribbean. In 1982, just before the new Fantasyland opened, the decision was made and the tickets were removed from the park, but they were never forgotten. Actually, nowadays the coolest attractions are still called e-ticket attractions, even when they were opened after the tickets were removed from the park.
So, we all know how Walt always wanted to innovate, and one of the best lands where he could develop this new innovative ideas was Tomorrowland. And so, in 1967, Disneyland introduced the PeopleMover. This D-ticket attraction gave guests a scenic 16-minute tour around all Tomorrowland, starting at Tomorrowland's entrance, going into the adventure through Inner Space Building, past the shoppers in the character shop, then going in and out of the Carousel Theater, near the Submarine Lagoon, through the waiting area of Circarama Theater, and, as of the late 70s, inside of Space Mountain. Now, unlike the monorail and other trains in the park, the little blue, red, green, and yellow cars in the PeopleMover weren't motorized themselves. What made them move was their motorized tracks. The rubber tires mounted along the track were powered by electricity to push the PeopleMover along at a speed of 7 miles per hour. Walt hoped that this transportation method would be used by cities in the future for urban transit, and it proved to be really effective. The little cars could fit 4 people comfortably, and almost 4,900 passengers could be moved through the attraction per hour. The system was actually studied by many city planners, but it was never used. So, what happened to the beloved PeopleMover? Well, Tomorrowland and all of its attractions started to feel a little outdated, and Imagineers knew that they needed to renovate the land. So, in 1995, they started drawing inspiration from Discoveryland, the Tomorrowland type land at Disneyland Paris, or Euro Disney as it was called back then. They came up with the idea of Tomorrowland 2055, and they started working on this renovation. But sadly, Euro Disney was not initially well received and caused a major financial strain for the other Disney parks, so the budget for Tomorrowland 2055 was largely cut. When Tomorrowland opened again in 1998, there were only a few changes made to the land, and one of them was the PeopleMover. The attraction turned into rocket rods, a ride that broke down constantly and disappointed many of the guests. So, in 2000, Disneyland decided to close this ride, and the unused tracks still stand gracefully across Tomorrowland since then. We would be so happy if the PeopleMover came back, wouldn't you?
During the 50s and 60s, Disneyland had special nights called date nights, some Friday and Saturday nights. This was one of the first special nighttime events. It started at 5 p.m. and ended at 12 a.m. Sometimes it even went on until 1 a.m. Couples who wanted to attend would have to purchase a special ticket book that cost $6.50, which is the equivalent to $55 today. They dressed up in their best clothes and went in to enjoy up to 10 rides, live entertainment where they could dance all night on the many dance floors around the park. There was even one dance floor inside the Mark Twain Riverboat. Then, at 9 p.m., they were treated to a special fireworks show called Fantasy in the Sky. Sounds familiar. Don't you wish date nights would make a comeback? We do.
Space Girl and Spaceman were 2 characters that used to walk around Tomorrowland. They were first seen on 1955, and they brought Tomorrowland closer to the future for 20 years until their last sighting in the 1970s. They wore special futuristic clothing made of white and silver materials, huge glass helmets, and little oxygen tanks. Space Girl also was seen sometimes wearing a special superhero-type cape. These characters were named the symbols of Tomorrowland because they went around promoting a happy and energetic technological future. They used to walk around talking to guests, shaking their hands, taking pictures, and even riding on attractions. These characters became so popular that crowds would trail along behind them as they walked. Also, rumors say that sometimes Spaceman would stand in the shadows inside the 2,000 Leagues Under the Sea exhibit in the shadowed area where the diving suits were. He stood there without moving until some guests would come by. Everybody thought he was part of the exhibit until he moved and said hello. People would get scared and laughed, but some parents complained that the children were afraid and supervisors had to put a stop to it. It would be really cool to have them back and give Tomorrowland that retro, futuristic feel that Walt always envisioned. That's it for today, but don't forget to subscribe, comment, or share if you like our videos. Also, please vote below for our next facts video. Here are the two options, Space Mountain versus Small World. See you next time.